Good morning and welcome to Out of My Mind. My name is Robison Wells. Today I'm going to be answering questions that came to me on Facebook and Twitter. The first question comes from Rebecca, who asks, how much of writing is full of momentum and excitement, and how much is just trying to keep your shoes on while wading through a bog? That's a good question, and that's a very apt description of it. The answer, of course, is that it depends. I wrote the first draft of Variant in 11 days. I know that that's crazy. Writing a book in 11 days is impossible. I've only been able to recreate it once. I wrote Airships of Camelot in 11 days also. But generally speaking, I don't write books in 11 days. And to be fair, those 11 days were first drafts. Each one was about 65,000 words for a first draft. The books ended up being closer to 80,000 words each. And in all of these books, there was a lot of revision. Variant was written in 11 days, but then I spent the next 2 months revising it before I sold it to an agent. And then once I got an agent, we revised it for 6 months after that, before it sold. By comparison, when I wrote Feedback, and this is the other end of the spectrum, I wrote Feedback, the first 20,000 words took me 6 months, which is the equivalent to writing a paragraph a day. At that time, I was much sicker, and I was working a full-time job, whereas when I wrote Variant, I was unemployed and healthy. Moving on to question number 2. Alicia asks, how did you meet your wife? My wife and I went to the same high school, but she's 3 years older than me, and so even though we ran in the same circles and we knew some of the same people, I was a freshman when she was a senior, and she had nothing to do with me. But then what happened is that several years later, when I was 21 and she was 24, she was graduating from college. I was working my way through college, and my friend, who happens to be her cousin, was having a turkey bowl on Thanksgiving at his house. He had done this every year, and although she and I had both been to the turkey bowls at his house, we had never crossed paths. This time, however, we did. I was supposed to be guarding her, she was supposed to be guarding me. According to how Erin tells this, she intercepted 2 passes that were intended for me. According to the way I tell that, what's that over there? Anyway, the point is, we met on Thanksgiving Day, we got engaged 2 days after Christmas, and we were married by St. Patrick's Day. So, speed. Alright, third question. Marta asks, if you could create any public policy regarding mental illness, what would it be and why? There are 3 things that I would definitely push for. Number 1 is I think that we need to incentivize medical students into going into psychiatry. There is a terrible shortage of psychiatrists in the United States, especially in my home state of Utah. When my general practitioner told me that he could no longer help me and that I needed the help of a specialist, a real psychiatrist, the waiting list to get in to see a psychiatrist was 9 months. We simply need more psychiatrists. Second, when our kids are in grade school, they get eye tests and they get hearing tests and they get scoliosis tests, but the one thing that is very lacking is any kind of treatment for ADHD and learning disorders. Some schools are better than others. My county is terrible. We have 34,000 students in my county. We do not have a single school psychologist. Third, we need to make sure that preventative mental health care is available to the poor and the disadvantaged. We need to require insurance to cover pre-existing conditions. Before the Affordable Care Act came out, when I would apply for insurance, we would go through the list of pre-authorization questions. This wasn't even in the in-depth questions, but the pre-authorization questions, they would get to the question, have you ever been hospitalized for a mental illness? And when I said yes, even though that was voluntary and it was for one night, I would immediately get disqualified. Finally, question number 4, Marta also asks, how can you keep writing when your life is chaotic? And the answer to that is, I don't. When life is chaotic, I kind of curl up into a ball. Fortunately, the way that I write is kind of a turtle versus hare kind of thing. Slow and steady wins the race. If I can plug out a couple thousand words every day, that's good. I don't do the big sprints like I used to do when I could do a book in 11 days. When life is chaotic, if I can pound out 1,500 or 2,000 words in a day, then that's great. Anyway, thank you for all the questions today. If you have more questions, I'd love to hear them. Subscribe, share this, give us a thumbs up. That's it for today. I will see you on Wednesday.